Welcome, everyone, to the regular meeting of council, Tuesday, March 25th. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Nkapa and the Silk people. Any public input? Thank you. Adoption of minutes, 4.1, regular council meeting minutes, March 11th, 2025. Recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on March 11th, 2025 be adopted. Councillor Baxter, Councillor Egan. Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. To bylaws we go. 8.1 fees and charges bylaw. I have a recommendation that the City of Merritt fees and charges bylaw, amending bylaw number 239422025 be adopted. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Egan, any questions on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 8.2 City of Merritt building bylaw number 23822024. We have a recommendation that the City of Merritt building bylaw number 23822024 be read a first time. Councillor Baxter, Councillor Charney, any questions on this? Sue.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to point out that we have circulated a revised version of this bylaw. It is on table, so that is what council is considering for first, second, and third readings this afternoon. Is the revised version that's been circulated on table.
Thank you. CEO.
So I could just say that this does not have any substantive changes other than administrative, like a numbering error and a title error, but there's no substantive content changes that changes the intent of the bylaw.
Okay. Any questions? It's a bylaw. What do you want? Councillor Etchart.
I was looking, I think it was in section 7, either 3.3 or 7.6, where it was talking about doing repairs in a pre-existing dwelling, where people are doing repairs. I wanted to see, I had it online. I think it was on page, might have been 3.7.6 or 3.3, but now in this, I wouldn't be able to find it very quickly. It was talking about the repair or replacement of a unit. So I was just trying to be clear, would they still need the permit then if it was repair of an existing plumbing, heating unit or deck over 600 millimeters? Or I think it was millimeters, yeah, because that's 2 feet. Right? 600 millimeters? No, if the height is over that. I think it was in 7.6, but because I just wanted clarification on that.
7.6 is damage to municipal works.
So that must have been 3.3. I think that
gives a list where it doesn't apply to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 3.3. So if a person has already a deck on their home and 3 bathrooms and they're doing a repair of existing infrastructure, if it's a repair or replacement, are they required then to do a building permit?
600 millimeters from the ground or the finished grade.
Okay.
So that is because it is part of the BC building code that they're required to have a permit. So it must be inspected by the building inspector.
So if it's a pipe that's had a leak and the person's doing repair, it's built into the home and it's just off the floor, it might not be.
No, that wouldn't, no. If it's a minor leak, it's more of the substantive repair that may impact the safety of the building. So if you've got a leak under your sink, that's not.
And how about if a person were doing a repair of their deck, which is already had maybe an occupancy permit taken out at original construction time?
If it's over 600 millimeters above ground or finished grade, then yes, it would require a permit.
Even though
because of the height of it is within the BC building code, that height becomes a risk. And so that's why the BC building code is determined that that's the height of risk.
Even if it's a repair of an existing
a substantive building? Repair, yes.
Okay. Just wanted.
If you're repairing a board, we're probably not going to call you on that. But if you're taking and putting the thing back together, probably we're going to ask you for a building, right? Like if it's substantive.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions? I got a mover and seconder on that, did I not? No? Okay, so recommendation that the City of Merritt building bylaw number 238222024 be read a first time. Councillor Baxter, Councillor Charney, any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that the City of Merritt Building Bylaw number 2382-2024 be read a second time. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Baxter. Any questions on that one? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that the City of Merritt Building Bylaw number 2382-2024 be read a third time. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Egan. Any questions on that one? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Councillor Hogan is away on a personal trip, so he's not with us tonight. So 8.3, 2025-2029 financial plan bylaw. We have three recommendation that the City of Merritt 2025-2029 financial plan bylaw number 2396-2025 be read a first time. Councillor Petrosi. I need a second. Councillor Charney. Any questions on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that the City of Merritt 2025-2029 financial plan bylaw number 2396-2025 be read a second time. Councillor Egan. Councillor Charney. Any questions on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry. Let's go back. Councillor Charney.
With these bylaws that we're putting through fairly quickly with changes and whatnot, when they do get reviewed, I know that we discuss them, but we're not. Sometimes I'm concerned with the length and the amount of changes that we get, revisions and stuff like that. Are they reviewed by legal counsel?
CFO or CAO?
Sorry, for the financial plan bylaw, no, that's.
Not
because-
financial plan,
Oh,
but
the
like the building, because there's 30 pages there and for
Yeah.
people like,
So that particular bylaw was based on the template provided by the Municipal Insurance Association of BC, which is actually our insurer for our liability
I know,
insurance.
yeah, I'm
So they
aware.
provide a template. Yes, of course, you'd be aware. And then it was drafted in-house with our expert building officials identifying what they could and could not enforce based on the building code and to bring it up to date to the current building code. It was probably a couple of building codes old, maybe 3. And then it went out to legal review.
so it does get a legal review?
For the more complex ones, especially when there is additional provincial legislation or federal legislation related to them, then they go out for review.
Okay,
Some of the more less complicated ones, we don't send out for legal review because the cost of that is prohibitive.
so 12382 with all the multiple changes and addendums and pieces that were in there, did we?
Yes,
Did we
that-
have a legal opinion?
That
on
went
this
out to
one?
legal. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I just didn't feel comfortable.
So if you
without-
read the, Councillor, if you read the background, the preamble says the proposed bylaw is based on the standards set by the Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia and has been reviewed by an outside authority to ensure compliance with regulatory regulations and enforceability. So yes.
Well, there was also a lot of revisions just put on the desk today, so I
Oh,
just,
and those did not in any way change the intent of the bylaw. They were purely administrative, like typos.
The numbering and stuff,
Numbering,
okay.
things like that.
well, I mean, these are the questions that we have to ask so
Yeah.
that we feel comfortable with these
Yep.
things, so, thank
Yep.
you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that the City of Merritt 2025-2029 bylaw, plan bylaw number 2396-2025 be read a third time. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Egan. Any questions on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Oh, yes, see you.
So this is a bylaw that we are required to have minimum 2 weeks between third reading and adoption so that community members who still have questions or would like to speak more to council about it have the next 2 weeks before it comes for adoption. So if any community members are watching or in the gallery, this is the time again to have another opportunity to engage with your councilors on this bylaw.
Thank you. Moving on, 8.4, amending bylaw 2025 sewer parcel tax. Recommendation that the City of Merritt sewer parcel tax amending bylaw number 2397-2025 be read a first time. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Charney. Questions on this one? Nope. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that the City of Merritt sewer parcel tax amending bylaw number 2397-2025 be read a second time. Councillor Charney, Councillor Petrosi, any questions on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that the City of Merritt Sewer Parcel Tax amending bylaw number 2397-2025 be read a third time. Councillor Egan, Councillor Petrosi, any questions on this? Those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. I know it seems kind of dry when we do these bylaws, but there they are. 8.5, amending bylaw water parcel tax. Recommendation that the City of Merritt water parcel tax amending bylaw number 2398-2025 be read a first time. Councillor Egan, Councillor Petrosi, questions on this one? Those in favor? Opposed, carried. Recommendation that the City of Merritt water parcel tax amending bylaw number 2398-2025 be read a second time. Councillor Egan, Councillor Charney, any questions on this one? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Recommendation that the City of Merritt water parcel tax amending bylaw number 2398-2025 be read a third time. Councillor Charney, Councillor Etchart, any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. On to new business. CEPA Claybanks Dyke project update. I'll read the recommendation. Recommendation that the March 19th, 2025 report of the Director of Recovery Management entitled CEPA Claybanks Dyke project update be received for information. CAO. Councillor Egan.
Yeah, go ahead and first and second.
Councillor
that, sir.
Egan and Councillor Charney.
I will invite the director up. However, I do have to tease him a little bit because he's like, oh, this is going to be a super long meeting. I probably don't have to come right at 6 o'clock.
Well, it may get longer right about now. You're up.
Thanks, Your Worship. 6:12 PM. I would have lost a lot of money on that bet. I will attempt to keep our good pace up here. A bit of a longer report, but here's two things I want you to concentrate on. Council's seen this. Council understands the Claybanks RV Park Dyke. This is probably the third time that Council's seen it. Two new pieces of information today. One is a cost estimate update. I'll kind of go through what that is. What's been done on that one. And the second one is we're going to hit a go, no go date for permitting. And I will be submitting that we push it off till next year if we hit that date. It's not what we did on the last dike. And I think we learned some lessons. I will be bringing it back to you at a time, but I'm going to at the go, no to go date, but I'm going to explain to you why today first. So originally, when you saw this last, there was about a dozen RV sites in the RV park that would have been taken up by the dike. Kind of a crime of sequencing here. We had to rebuild the RV park because insurance money was about to expire. So if we didn't rebuild the RV park, we wouldn't have been able to do it at all. We didn't have funding for the dike. I would have loved to do those two projects simultaneously so that we could have equipment on site at one time. But unfortunately, either A, we didn't have an RV park, or B, we didn't have a dike. And so now we get both, and we have a loss of about 12 sites. Since that point, we've had some really good discussions with, they call in BC the diode or deputy inspector of dikes. That's the person who regulates all of these dikes, what you can build on them, how you can build them, etc. The diode is leaning towards permitting tent sites on those sites that are going to be replaced by the dike. So it would basically be a small uplift and then a tent and you park up front. So we've minimized the loss of revenue from those. And so at the end of this project, we'll likely have 8 to 12 Riverside tenting sites instead of Riverside RV sites. So good win there. And it's been a really good process working in close conjunction with city recreation staff and the engineers to get that. So I'm pretty happy about that. That is an update that I wanted to bring you because now we are done detailed. We are proceeding with the plan previously approved by council with the small amendment that we are going to be integrating some of those tent sites on there. The second thing that I wanted to bring to you today is around cost. So the cost of this, we originally filed for a grant for this section of dike. Now that grant costing was done off costing that was taken from the 2018 flood in Grand Forks. So 2018 Grand Forks flooded. We actually used the same engineer as Grand Forks did. pretty good cost information. It turns out 2018 till now, and 2019 till now, 2020 till now, has had some significant cost escalation factors. I don't have to tell you about inflation. We all go to the grocery store and understand inflation. That's a significant driver of this for sure. Typically in these projects, you budget about 2% a year inflation. We saw multiple years of 5, 8, even 10% inflation. That won't match the consumer inflation index, but what you see in these projects is they're very energy intensive. It requires vehicles, it requires rock fill, it requires engineering, et cetera. Those categories of inflation have been significantly higher. So I don't have to tell you about inflation. There's been an inflation effect. What we have seen though is much more specific to our experience. We have reprofiled the cost of this dike based on our recently completed SEPA North. When I say SEPA, what we're referring to is cold water expanded protection area as opposed to CEDAR, which is cold water existing dike renewal. We of course had a couple of dikes that we've talked about today that we're rebuilding. These are new dikes that were outside of the pre-2021 dike envelope. So anything named SEPA is a brand new dike. SEPA Public Works came out to between, I got to go look again, between $11,000 and $13,000 per finished meter. So super expensive dike. A lot of that was due to regulatory standards. 2019, federal DFO changed their entire legislation in terms of what they regulate, what they can declare for offsetting, what they can require for offsetting. And we also saw a significant increase in provincial guidelines, provincial inspections, provincial requirements that the engineers have come back to us and said, they haven't seen this before. This is a change in process and it is an additional cost. The city of Merritt does not have standing to tell the regulators that we're not going to do that. When a regulator comes in, you have to go do that. Just like when a building inspector comes in and says, you have to get a permit for your deck rebuild because it hits that bar. We have to do the same thing as the city when the province or the feds come to us and say, you have to do X, Y, Z. In our case, move a couple of things in the river for $23,000. You just have to do that if you want to build your project. So what we've done is we've reprofiled the cost of this dike with what we've learned. We're quite confident in these costs at this point that they match not only inflation, but what we're seeing for the regulatory environment in the Nicola Valley, which is different than what you will see in Grand Forks. I'm not sure why there's a significant regional difference, but there is. What we have done as a result of this is broken this project into 3 parts. The first part is engineered to fit within the $2 million envelope. We got a municipal non-matched $2 million grant for this project. Municipality did not have to put in any funds. $2 million came from the provincial government to pay for a section of diking along this. We have one section of diking that we have capped off at $2 million. We have a second phase of this project that is basically the rest. We estimate that will be about 1.2 to 1.3. And then there's a third phase as well that is everything on the dry side. So what the recreation departments would like to do with that park after the fact, if there's any additional requests or lighting or fireworks or LED displays or anything else that is in that park that they would like to add to this engagement because we already have engineers in here is a third scope. It's really looking like that third scope will be quite minimal, i.e. putting some tent sites on top, sloping the roads a little bit, adding some rock. That is something that can likely be absorbed into the project portfolio. So at the current time, as long as it stays as a smaller scope, it will be covered out of the existing funds because it's looking quite minimal for what we'll have to do. The second scope, that 1.2 to 1.3 million, that is unfunded at this current time. So I'm not bringing a recommendation forward for funding because that is something that we are working on. I do have some fairly good ideas about where that might come from provincially. At this point, before the announcement today, we were about $71 million in contribution from the provincial government through response, through recovery, for the bridge, for new water lines, for the evacuation. Everything from the flood up until yesterday was about $71 million. $0 has been asked of from the municipality at this point in the flood response and recovery. A fact that we are quite happy with. We just closed out our EMCR filing with a 99.7% reimbursement ratio. The finance team nobody actually has ever seen that type of reimbursement ratio from EMCR. So super high on that. And then that 0.3%, we actually got covered from a different source. So we've been very, very lucky to not require a municipal contribution. At some point, in order to establish flood protections in the city of Merritt, we will have to. There will have to be a municipal matching contribution. I don't know if it's on this one. I will bring this back to you at a time when I know exactly where that money may come from. And if there's a municipal matching fund, I will be bringing that to council. At the current time, I still think there's a reasonably good chance that we might be able to cover this with other sources and not require a municipal cost match. We are proceeding forward. We're proceeding forward with the design and the construction, knowing that we have a $2 million envelope and we can, at minimum, get the majority of the diking, all the earthworks diking done in that $2 million portfolio. Before we go forward with the next section, I will either come to you and say, we did find a way to do this without municipal funds, or I will come to you with a decision of a go, no go, whether you want to commit municipal funds to this cause. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the permitting. So SEPA North, Public Works Dike, what happened is do all the engineering, you submit the permits, and the regulators say, we'll get back to you. They don't say, we'll get back to you in a week, or they don't say, we'll get back to you in a month. They say our processing timeline is somewhere between 3 to 18 months. It's really, really hard. Some of our regulators have been really good. They've been, hey, we'll get back to you in 6 months. That's been an achievable timeline. Like Deputy Inspector of Dikes has an achievable timeline that we can work around. I can plan a construction schedule. If somebody tells me, even if it'll be 6 months, even if it'll be 8 months, I can plan a construction schedule around that. But what we really saw with SEPA North is that the regulators do not provide good guidance on those schedules. We took a bit of a roll of the dice on SEPA North and said, hey, we're going to move to procurement, even though we don't have permits in hand, knowing what those permits will actually look like. And what ended up happening is that when the city received those permits back, they were substantially different than the engineers expected and had much more onerous conditions than anyone had ever seen on a waterside construction project before. As a result, SEPA North incurred significant additional costs and work stoppages as a result of two conditions in those permitting. So my recommendation to this council and to the rest of staff at this point is if this permit is not in hand by May 13th, we defer the construction of this dike until next year. If we don't have permits and you come back and you say, staff, I would like you to roll the dice again and try and complete this, we certainly can. So May 13th isn't a absolute hard deadline in the sand, but I can tell you that it really affects the risk profile and the possible financial overage of the project, because at that point we're moving into procurement and looking for a contractor, and we're not able to tell the contractor what terms that they need to uphold. We can't give them a permit and say, here's your work window, here's your guidelines for turbidity, and here's the fish mitigation measurements that you, or fish mitigation measures that you need to uphold. Without that, we are seeing change orders, and we will see change orders. You will see something back from me in about that timeline, mid-May, either saying, yes, we have a permit, I recommend that we go, here's the financial arrangements, or no, we don't have a permit, what would you like to do? Questions?
Councillor Egan.
Thank you. I just wanted to know if we don't make or get the approvals on May 13th, will that stop the opening of clay banks at all by any stretch?
Thank you, Councillor Egan, through the mayor. I can't comment on that directly. The management of the RV park is actually being done internally within the city. So the recreation department manages that RV park. I know there's been a lot of discussions and plans about how that gets done, who does it, how much opens, et cetera. The mitigation department is responsible for capital infrastructure addition. So we've messaged what that area looks like, how many sites are required to be fenced off during the construction timeline. I would imagine it would significantly affect the next year. But in terms of opening or not opening, I can't comment on that one. And I would perhaps refer there.
I can respond if you like.
Sue.
Yeah, I think at this point, if the dike's not going in, it's certainly reasonable for us to continue to open with the full complement of sites. You know, at this point, we can't say that there's going to be a flood or not a flood, so we might as well continue with the plan to open, and we'll use the full complement of sites for this year. And then obviously the sites will get reduced once the dike is built.
I agree. Councillor Etcher.
With the overage that you expect of the 1.3 million, if we have the drop dead rate and we decide to push this to 2026, do you anticipate a large difference in increase? Right now, we're expecting the 1.3. Do you imagine that being 1.6 or?
Thank you, Councillor Etchart, to the mayor. You don't have a crystal ball, but I can't see a significant change other than inflationary effects. So when we look at inflationary effects of 2 to 4%, that would be my current expectation of that project. The work scope, including engineering of all the environmental studies, et cetera, is already done. So it would be purely affecting equipment moving in, how much the rock is to purchase, et cetera. We'd be able to contain it to inflationary effect, but there would be an effect of that for sure. And also an additional administrative effect of now we're building next year and we have staff time. We have poor Kevin, who's now having to handle another 30,000 journal entries for a bunch of other things. So there's certainly some non-monetary effects there as well of pushing a project of this. But I would imagine cash costs of it would be 2 to 4% of the project.
And most of the material for this project could be procured from Canada.
Yes, so super good point. Thank you very much for bringing that up. We've talked about that a little bit as a team in terms of our procurement. I know the city has been talking about that significantly. Flood mitigation is blessed in the fact that most of our material is rock, which is locally sourced. Most of our labor is locally sourced, and our engineers, environmentalists, everything else is locally sourced. There's basically zero that we have that would be affected by any future tariffs. And I want to get across, this is an annoying development, but it is a good news development. It's a thing that we are not in a situation where I'm saying we've already spent the money and we're over. I'm saying we've got the expertise that nobody else in BC has of what these costs are and how these regulator permits are going to come in. We've developed that through the projects that we've been doing, and I'm able to relay that to you beforehand so that we can make really good decisions before starting a project.
CEO.
Mr. Strang, can you just give us a reminder of the magnitude of the overage on the CEPA, the Public Works dike, just so council understands that if we do roll the dice, as they're thinking about it over the next couple of months, where we kind of went, how much over we really went, or percentage over we really went.
Absolutely. Thanks, CAO. It's actually almost a carbon copy stamp. So the Public Works dike was the same thing. It was a $2 million dike that was costed based on Grand Forks 2018 flood, based on those numbers. $2 million dike turned into a $3.1 million dike. So $1.1 million overage. It's a complex accounting exercise, and I will, of course, provide a spreadsheet. We are looking for funding sources for that one currently, and quite hopeful that we won't be asking for city taxpayer contribution on that. When the spreadsheet comes in, it's a complex activity to say what that 1.1 million came from, but I can tell you that over 60% came from the regulator requirements that were non-expected at the time. So that is, if in effect, what you're referring to is $600,000 of cost related to going without a permit.
That's the risk then.
Yep.
So when you think about that, $600,000 out of that $1 million overage, it's a fair amount of risk to us.
Councillor Cherney.
If the permits come before or on May 13th, that means on July 9th, your contractor is going to mobilize to the site. So how will this affect the RV park? Will trucks be going through the RV park?
So it's kind of thank you, Councillor Charney, through the mayor. That's a multi-jurisdictional or multi-departmental question in terms of the recreation department is the one actually managing. To answer your question at the end, absolutely. So it's a construction site and it looks like any other construction site. And I think we as Merrittonians have seen a fair bit of that in the last few years. When you see the bridge, you see trucks rolling through SEPA North, obviously from where you are, it would have been an increase in truck traffic. And additionally, there is a fenced off area within the RV park that's required for construction activities. So to answer your question, is it a construction site? Absolutely, it's a construction site. What does the RV park look like from an operational perspective during that period? I cannot answer that for you.
So I think that is consideration that we would have to give this year for possibly reducing nightly rates. Because as I know from the Public Works, they were diligent workers. 6 AM, they started, and sometimes they would go to 9 at night. I'm not complaining because I was really glad to have that, but as a camper, I may not be. So maybe for this year, we have to consider reduced rates under construction.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, people that have emailed me and asked the same question, I've been very upfront that the fact is that you may be camping in a spot that's going to be a construction area. You may want to look at Moon Shadows or somewhere else if that's not to your liking, but it could very well be a construction site and you would be aware of that before you got there. And I'm sure that we could talk about a certain situation where, because, you know, to a certain degree, we're, you know, we'll be at this for over a year, so we're rebuilding. So it's not going to get all fixed in 1 year. So I think that's something we need to focus on. Councillor Egan.
And I think that was the point I was trying to get at in terms of how it would affect Claybank's opening, because you have to, depends how much money we're putting in to make it sort of accommodating for people that are going to be staying there this year. So, you know, like, and then if the construction is delayed another year, how much of that would be ruined and how much extra cost would there be in all of that? So.
And I can say, so Dave Zackel has actually done a great job of liaising directly with the engineers. So we've actually broken out a bit of a separate engagement in terms of what the work needs to be done, but also what needs to be done to make that RV park have tent pads after the fact, what is the work window, et cetera. So Dave has done a really good job liaising with those engineers. And as this progresses, as the construction window progresses, he's very well tied, him and his staff are very well tied into how exactly that looks.
CEO.
And Mr. Zackel, actually, Mr. Zackel could come up and just briefly share the mic with Mr. Strang and talk about how he's kind of identified which rows or for which things, and maybe there's construction people staying there. So he's got a tentative beginning of a plan should the dike start this year.
Mr. Zach.
Thank you, CEO, to the mayor. Yeah, so we worked with the engineers and looked at the scope of the project for the construction and what's going to be going on. And we've identified just about 1/3 of the clay banks could be operational, up to 22 sites, recreational sites for 50 amp full service sites. We talked about even opening up a 3rd lane to any contractors that need to work on site and want to live there. They would be the buffer zone in those drive-through sites. Yeah, working through, we've got a tentative plan to make it work. Just waiting on some other questions and so forth to make that work. So just wanted to say sorry, CEO. I know we're going to, the plan is to open clay banks and exciting, but if construction is going on, we still want to open it. We still want to have some type of opening. Everybody is waiting for this park to open. They are wanting to come.
I think ultimately the staff is trying to roll with it and figure out as on the fly how this is going to go. But we're prepared to go.
And I think council is prepared to understand the fact that this is a work in progress and that we want to get this open. We wanted it open last year. It was disappointing when we had to extend it another year. So I think people will be very understanding if they choose to stay there. I mean, let's be honest, somebody's got like a 6-month-old baby, they're not staying there if we've got construction going on. So I think we take we open it and we see how it works. If it becomes untenable, then we close it. It's just that simple. Councillor Petrosi.
Mr. Zackel, you said 22 sites we're looking at.
Yeah, as public sold sites, 22 sites.
22 sites, and we've got how many sites total in there?
We have right now, I believe it is 56 sites with the possibility of losing 12.
Right.
So we really don't know the bottom number after construction is done. Excuse me, but yeah, so 22 sites works on road 1 and road 2. So coming in on road 1, on road 2, leaving on road 1. Yeah, there would be 22 unencumbered sites from construction zone.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Do we have any plans on using the overflow on the other side of the bridge for anything?
At this time, no.
Okay.
I mean, with the construction going on and the amount of construction, it's like, we don't know if they're gonna need some extra site for equipment and stuff, so.
Councillor Petrosi.
And what's the status of the Sani dump?
It's my understanding right now, our director from engineering will be best answered, but I believe it is ready to go.
Okay.
It's just not open yet.
Thank you.
Perfect. I knew none of that. I don't do the operational component. And like, I will stress, like any construction project, but certainly a construction project around populated areas, it's painful. It's painful for a year. It's painful for 3 years. In 15 years, in 10 years, nobody's going to remember if the RV park opened 1 year earlier, 1 year later. I think what people will remember is whether they get flooded out of their houses or not. And I think we'll all be very happy in 20 years when our kids can say that they aren't flooded out of Merritt. So we'll get this done one way or the other, either this year or next year. And the things are being done in such a way that we can remain flexible and do whatever we can for this year.
Well, I think with the announcement today, I think everybody that is along there has to expect that there's going to be noise and movement and construction for the next 4 to 6 years. It's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's to make this community safer. So I'm 100 feet away from it. I'll be fine with it. I'll be happy to see. I like dirt moving. I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we do have a recommendation. I do have it moved. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Yes, I moved it right down here. I had it moved. I do believe it was, remember you started and you said, go ahead and move it. And I think it was Councillor Egan and Councillor Petrosi. Yeah, so I wrote it down because I knew I was going to forget. Yep, no problem. 9.2 Claybanks Dike Management Act authorization. We have a recommendation. I'm going to read the whole thing. That council approves the requirements pursuant to Dike Maintenance Act, Section 24E, the Water Sustainability Regulations, Section 39, and the Ministry of Water Land Resource Stewardship Policy, diking authorities for new dikes. 1, the City of Merritt has agreed to become the diking authority, DA, and will be fully responsible for operational and maintenance for the SEPA Claybanks. And 2, the City of Merritt has pursued legal access to the Crown lands on which the dike is to be constructed. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Charney. Questions. I have a question. So as we agree to become the diking authority, which I know we do not have anybody in staff that is capable of being a diking authority, and I have queried the government several times on them becoming a diking authority to no avail. Can you shed light on who is actually going to authorize our dikes as we have them inspected over the years?
So this is something the council will have to start considering pretty significantly over the next few years, because we'll have to do regular inspections, which will require an outside contractor. And in addition, there has been no maintenance funds for dikes or bridges, particularly based on our regular inspections of those pieces of infrastructure. So that's something that council will have to start thinking about for operational planning, budget planning in the next year, to make sure that we actually have the money to do the work to keep these dikes functional. But yeah, it will be contracted out for inspection. Some of the maintenance work will likely be able to be done internally, but that will remain to be seen, and it will have to be budgeted.
Is this cold water only, or is this all the dikes in the community?
As we take ownership of the dikes, so the building of new dikes we own, right? So the Public Works dike, we're already the diking authority. This one, we're the diking authority. I imagine 129 and 130 rebuild will become the diking authority in those. So as we take ownership of dikes or build new dikes, we will become the diking authority.
So what about the older dikes, like the one down by the golf course, that is basically falling apart at some
That
point?
on the Nicola? Yeah,
On
I
the
think that
Nicola.
was part of the original plan, was to replace that one. Was it not, Mr. Strang?
But what I'm looking at is
Yeah.
who's going to, do we take those over as ours, or
We're gonna try not to.
because at this point it belongs to nobody?
Mhm.
You got to come up. We might have some dike fanatics out there, so.
My apologies. It's actually been a while since I've thought about the Nicola. We do have dike. So city's already a diking authority on multiple dikes in town. So city's actually already a diking authority on dike 129 and 130. Obviously, we're not in a position to repair that as which destroyed. Of course, the announcement today is that we can rebuild it. Actually, probably won't need a resolution to be a diking authority on that because we already are. The Nicola River, there's 2 dikes that are already registered, and the city is a diking authority
Okay.
and therefore required to maintain. There are some orphan dikes, such as underneath the actual usual Sepa North Public Works dike was what would be considered an orphan dike, a whole bunch of riprap, kind of ineffective, unmaintained. That is an orphan dike. That's nobody's dike. Province doesn't have responsibility and we don't. But the Nicola one, 2 dikes on the Nicola, we are already the diking authority and we have certain requirements to get it inspected and maintained on a regular basis.
So I had a conversation with the minister today. I let her know that we would probably be seeing her in September, pushing for the province to have a diking authority. I think it's needed by the province and I think it's needed.
I think that alternatively, although I hate to say this, because they'll just keep downloading and giving us money that we can't actually do the work on. But alternatively, I think it's really important that if they're not going to be the diking authority, is that based on the fact that this is well outside the scope of municipal mandate, that they at least provide the funding for the maintenance and inspection of those dikes that are within municipal boundaries. So one way or the other, we need the province to take some responsibility because we don't even have a clue, I don't think, Mr. Green, about what the magnitude of cost is for dike maintenance in the community.
Well, the part that drives me crazy is the fact that we have a diking superintendent, but yet we don't have a diking authority. So who does he work for? Like, I mean, you know, it's like a ghost. If you are a diking superintendent, who do you answer to if there's no diking
Pretty
authority?
good job.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's called, well, whatever. But I'm just saying, it stymies me the fact that we have a diking superintendent and no diking authority from the provincial government. Basically, that's somebody just sticking a wrench into the gears. That's all that is. And you want to do that, that's fine. But have an authority and take care of our dikes. Councillor Regan.
Yeah, my question was mainly about cost projections in terms of dike maintenance. If we're going to have to provide the routine inspections, we're going to need to know some kind of cost forecasting.
Yeah, so I'll ask the team to kind of start thinking about preparing something about that. You know, as we enter into the next budget cycle in the next couple of months, because it'll start again very quickly. We'll start thinking about that as a new addition to the budget is the cost of inspection and maintenance, ongoing maintenance of the dikes.
Councillor Charney.
I don't know what is involved in being a dike inspector, but is it possible to train some current employee to become a dike inspector so that therefore we have an internal inspector and we don't have to continually contract out?
Well, currently you just show up and say you're a dike inspector.
Well, then get that.
Oh, I'll make one. I'll get a 3D printer and
We'll investigate that because we are very keen on having as many services that we can offer internally. However, if we have an internal dike inspector, then that means that we still have to find someone to do the work that person would not be doing when they're inspecting dikes or doing dike maintenance or whatever the case may be. So there's still going to be a cost. It may be less than contracted cost. We find that very often that is the case, that we can do things more effectively internally than by using contractors. So we will investigate to see what it takes to become a dike inspector and maintainer, and if there's a certification for that.
Maybe we reach out to Ministry of Forests or Ministry of Highways. We do have bridge inspectors, so they can't be that far off from being a dike inspector to see if maybe we could collaborate for someone in those ministries to actually be. The last thing I want to see is Ben Parfit, when he released his information about the city not doing dike inspections before the flood, I thought was very unfair, very one-sided. And I don't want to see that happen again. That painted a lot of people in a very bad light, and I don't think it was done fairly. Councillor Charney.
I think having our own dike inspector fits perfectly with your internal promotion. And, you know, I understand that while he's inspecting dikes, he's not, or she is not doing their regular work, but I think that's something that we should really look into and budget for.
Any other questions? All those? Oh, yes, please, Mr. Green. Come on down. You're the next contestant.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of things you need to consider as it relates to dikes is right now we do inspect dikes yearly. We also do bridges yearly. The reason we hire that out largely is it's not that expensive to have somebody come and spend a couple of days crawling over these things. And it provides us that arm's length liability should something go wrong. So we hire a professional, they stamp a report, they expect maintenance to be done. We do that in-house, we're assuming all that liability for $7,500 fee that we saved annually. It's not big dollars. The other thing to think about when it comes to maintenance on the dikes, and I think this is the reason why I've seen years and years of inspections where there's been no action on the actual dikes, is we're not equipped for that. So when we start working on dikes, if you've seen the equipment they use to build the public works dike, we're dealing with larger trucks that can haul larger rocks. We're dealing with excavators that can walk in there and do things with big thumbs on them, not a backhoe and a couple of small single axle trucks. So how you equip yourself for this, I don't think we're gonna likely have enough volume of work to tool up for too much of it. But a lot of the basic things that have been in the report since about 2005, I think, when I went back to, need to get done on a regular basis. So that's a lot of the vegetation removal, basic shaping, moving rocks around, minor things, and keeping them clean as built. What you will find on some of the dikes that we do have lately, where the Coldwater River Trail is and whatnot, a lot of those trees shouldn't even be there. They've been in the diking reports for years to remove them. They grew on their own, and had it been maintained years ago, we wouldn't have those trees undermining the dikes. And this is part of the thought process you go through on how you maintain them. We have to tool up, or we have to take a look at the amount of work and potentially lean on contractors to do it. But that's sort of the history of dikes. Bridges is the same thing. We get them inspected by a professional. It transfers liability to that professional. And then ideally they give us a list of maintenance requirements, and we either turn it over to Public Works to get done, or we hire a contractor to get it done. But we got to start doing the work. We have to start funding the work so we don't lose control of them.
CEO.
Yeah, so I think that's the key right there, is the funding part, and whether we do it internally, externally. Again, it depends, I guess, on the scope of the size of the rock that needs to be moved. I know that the Director of Public Works and Engineering likes bigger toys, but I told him no. He keeps asking for a bulldozer and I keep telling him no. But I think that's what we need to be aware of, is that funding is not in the current budget in a way that allows us to do the work that needs to be done. So again, we'll start looking at outlining what that plan and what those costs might be in order of magnitude. We won't know until we've done it for a couple of seasons. But I think just having that sense that this is $100,000 a year, or this is $5,000 a year, or $1 million a year, we don't even know yet.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Appreciate it. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 9.3, traffic study for schools and park zones. Recommendation that the March 6, 2025 report of the Community Policing Office Coordinator entitled Traffic Study for Schools and Park Zones be received for information. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Egan, any questions on the traffic study, even though it's just for information? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Park access road naming. There's a recommendation here, but I'm going to ask to have this sent to Policy Committee because we already have one that is on the way for this. So rather than doing these separately, we probably should send this to Policy to update our naming of our streets. So I would like a seconder. I make a motion that we move this to Policy. Councillor Petrosi, any questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.5, Disaster Resilience and Innovation Funding Program, DRIF. Recommendation that council direct staff to apply for the Disaster Resilience and Innovation Funding Program for the SEPA Middlesboro Phase 1 Diking Section. Councillor Egan, Councillor Etchart. Any questions on that one? We never say no to free money, so excellent. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Notices of motion. Nope. Reports from council. Great, I'll go. March 13th, I had a Zoom call with the mayor of Lillooet and the CAO, and our CAO was on that. And we are kind of brainstorming on how we can keep our hospitals open and what processes we can also use to make that happen. On the 28th of this month, even though I'm at TNRD, we will be meeting, the mayor's group will be meeting with Minister Osborne on a Zoom call to start our process of mayors that are in affected communities and what the process the ministry is working towards to help us get there, and the mayors feel that we can help her with that. I have great hope that we can get there and we can get this problem taken care of. On the 15th, I attended the Merritt Figure Skating Club Carnival, which was great. I had a great time there. The decorations were well done. The performers were awesome. I really enjoyed myself, and I thank you for the invite. 18th, did the food bank and the town walk. I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but the numbers are down at the food bank as opposed to last year. They are down. On the 19th, I went to Nicola Meadows and met with the clients there like I do every month and had a really good hour-long conversation with them. And then we had the airport appreciation meeting because we're getting ready for Airport Appreciation Day for 2025. That is September 13th. Mark that on your calendars. So we're working on that already so we can have a great event. On the 20th, I met with myself and the CAO met with the Minister of Forests, Ravi Parmar, to discuss some of the issues in the community and what we see as some pushback on forestry and what he's willing to do to help us make this work better for us and for our mill here in town. And as soon as we were done that, we met with Minister of Jobs and Economic Development and Innovation, Deanna Gibson, who I think was quite impressed with some of the things we have going in the community and some of the ideas that we've come up with, some of the plans. So I think she was quite impressed with it. So it was kind of interesting. We got these notices. The ministers were in right after each other with like a 1 day's notice. So it was fine. We'll do it. Today, met with Minister Kelly Green, AMCR, and we had a press conference to announce the Dike 129 and 130 funding up to $60 million. It's very nice to see us moving in on that. And I do want to take a moment to thank our staff, our OC, Sean and his crew, and our staff and council and the community. This has been a long fight. This has been a long go. And I know that there's been hair pulling moments and there'll continue to be some, but it's kind of nice to get where we are. So I just want to say thank you personally to everybody that has taken this upon themselves and really put their heart into it. And thanks to the community for sticking with this community, even after the flood, rebuilding, staying here and growing here and being part of it, because we'll continue to fight for this money. And the federal government now needs to get involved, so we will continue to pound them on that. We'll see how that goes. It is an election. And then today I did the food bank and town walk. Rumor control. Here are the facts. On one of the socials, there is a rumor going around that we have 2 nurses resigning and leaving the community. That's totally false. That is not happening. I had a long meeting with my director, and my director has assured me that the nurse line is never stronger and that there are no nurses leaving this community at this point in time. Now, I think what has happened is they have opened the doors for 24-hour security, and they have now hired 2 travel nurses. So I think some people have heard the word travel and nurses and think our nurses are leaving. That's not the case. These are privately hired nurses to keep our hospital open. So we are not having 2 nurses that are resigning and leaving. That's from the horse's mouth. Sorry, Karen. But anyways, so I just want to take care of that. So that's it for me. Thank you. Who's next? Councillor Charney.
On March 14th, I was at the seniors meeting, their monthly meeting, and one of the main concerns, and this is in conjunction with Councillor Etchart and the museum, is the doors to the washroom. If you are handicapped, you are pushing a walker, you cannot get into the bathroom doors. So with talking with the seniors, one of the push buttons was an option, but it also has to be a push button that can be locked, because there are a lot of problems with the unhoused that go in there and create a lot of problems. So I know it's a concern with the seniors, and in consultation with Councillor Etchart, it's a concern with the museum. It's a city-owned building, so I'm not too sure, CAO, do we drop the ball in your court now to look into this situation?
So,
Yeah, 10-4, our grant funding, grant fund writer is currently on it. We have a couple of ideas around accessibility grants. And what you're asking for in regards to a door that's the push button and locks, totally 100% can happen.
Perfect. Okay. And then on March 17th, in consultation with Councillor Egan and the mayor, I contacted the BC Greenhouse Growers Association and talked to them with regards to a new business coming into town, which would have a byproduct of heat, and how this could be used in a greenhouse situation. Gary is the contact name. He was very interested in it. The next day I had 2 people contact me and wanting information. So it's out there, and we'll see how that goes. And that would be a great compliment to get 2 companies working together and one using the byproduct of another. So we'll see how that goes. And I hope you all notice that greenhouse on March 17th. Did you all get the fun there? Only
St. Patrick's
Egan,
Day.
Council Egan got it. Sheesh.
I'm German.
Oh, St. Patty's
I'm not
Day,
Irish.
green. Okay, March 20th, I attended the police committee meeting. It's my first time. I'm not on the committee, but I just attended for information, and it was interesting to see. So that's it for me.
Counselor Edgehart.
Okay, well, I was at the museum monthly meeting and they were discussing the safety concerns with the washrooms, and then I mentioned that to Councillor Charney. So if that was on our list to Santa of things that we could prepare around town, there's multiple groups kind of begging and pleading on our wish list. Thank you. Now you've heard it twice. Sorry to be a pain, but March 18th, we had our monthly emergency services meeting, and so there's some plans and practice should we ever need it. Hopefully not. Police committee meeting went well. We had questions answered. They have some goals put forth by the RCMP, and it seems to be good for the community check-ins. Safety bits that they can do visiting the schools. That was nice. And then today, the meeting with the MCR. And thank you to the recovery team for all the work, and everybody at the city for all the work regarding flood mitigation. It's been great. Thanks.
Counselor Petrosi.
Yes, March 20th, I attended the police committee meeting, and Sergeant Peterborough and Staff Sergeant Tribe were here from the RCMP. And just a few stats for 2024, they had 6,700 calls for service in Merritt. 1,883 of those were in the TNRD. And as of the 20th also, they're roughly about 200 falls ahead so far this year compared to last year. So they are definitely busier. And they do have some performance plans for the upcoming year, and definitely more downtown safety patrols and targeted downtown patrols. So really good to hear. So it was an excellent meeting, and that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Excellent. Moving on. Information items. There's just one mitigation team update. Anybody have a question on any of the information items? CEO report. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so this mitigation team update, you'll hopefully see quarterly. I know that Mr. Strang's team sometimes is deep into designing something with rock. But as we said, we'd like to bring you every month update on a significant area of the operations. And so this month it is the mitigation team update. Typical reports, the fire department report is there. The final CPO monthly report is there. We've reprofiled that position a little bit. Your council resolutions. I do want to say that we had a pretty major issue at the pool last weekend. One of the boiler for the main pool became non-functional. Our staff did a tremendous job mitigating a high-risk situation. So I thank the staff for that, because it could have gone very badly. I got to attend my first junior native hockey tournament here. My son played. Wow, so many people in the community for that tournament. Fantastic to see the number of people in the stands, both at the Chalouse Arena and the Merritt Arena. I was a bit overwhelmed by the volume of people that were there. It was fantastic. I think it's an event that the community, the region should be proud to be hosting. And in regards to the work around the flood mitigation plan, the director and I have already started talking just briefly about our plans for the last little bits and how we're going to be advocating probably to the federal government to step up and cover that last 20 to 30% of the diking. And so I know that the mayor has received information that we're probably going to have to resubmit our petition once the new government is in. So we'll be readdressing our advocacy plan for the feds in regards to getting the rest of those dikes built, which is the Middleborough Bridge up to Gaudie Creek. I think that's it for updates.
Thank you. Final CPO monthly report, council resolutions. Always enjoy the council resolutions. Nice to see we are doing something. Closed session. Yes. Yeah, we've gone through them. We just went through them. Councilor Charney.
When it comes to the closed section, I will remove myself when we get to the Stewie project property acquisition update.
But we want the public to know that she's actually leaving.
Yep. So I will be removing myself as I live along the river and could and most likely will be potentially affected by land acquisition. So I will remove myself when this discussion takes place.
Thank you. And with that, closed session. Recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to E, the acquisition, disposition, and exploration of land and improvements. The council consider that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality of the community charter. Councilor Petrosi. I need a seconder. Councilor Charney. Oh, you're blinking. Oh, sorry.
Before we went to go to closed session, I also just wanted to say on a positive comment that thank you to our local fire department, because with some of the recent work that they've been doing with Lord Nicola, I've had success recently with seeing some reductions in insurance premiums for residents of Lord Nicola, because we had a period of time where they were trying to not honor the hydrants out there, which was increasing insurance premiums for home clients. So thank you to the Merritt Fire Department for all your hard work.
He's leaving. With that, all those in favor going into closed? 5 minutes. 5 minutes, we'll be back.
Yeah, no, I got two rate